His keen analysis live from Washington. New Gingrich, former Speaker of the House, to weigh in on this. Yeah, I think every 4 years we say, oh, we've never seen an election like it. I'm certain you miss Iowa this time around. But you said this is utterly unpredictable. I don't think that's inaccurate, Mr. Speaker.
No, I think it is. Let me say, first of all, for keen analysis, Carl Cameron's much closer to what's going on than I am. And he has been an amazing analyst over the years looking at campaign politics.
He'd probably agree with you, too, on that.
What I would say, a couple of things. The biggest thing to me is if you back out of the details and look at the poll writ large, you have 61% going to Trump, Cruz, and Carson. Now, that means 61% goes to 63 if you add in Fiorina, are going to people who are by definition outsiders. That should say something big to Washington about how the Republican base feels about the current way the party is not changing the country. That's part one. Part two, I think in both races, it's a little tricky, having lived through this myself 4 years ago, and Clifton and I watched like riding a really wild ride at the amusement park. You had, for example, a couple years ago, Santorum suddenly surged in the last weekend, went from 8 or 9% to carrying the state by a narrow margin. You had a few years earlier, Edwards come all of a sudden out of nowhere. And Edwards and Rubio, in a sense, are very similar candidacies. They were surrounded by people who were attacking each other, and folks finally got fed up and said, you know, I like this person. He's being positive. He's being nice. So Rubio may overperform the poll come tomorrow night because, as you just showed a minute ago, you've got Trump attacking Cruz, you got Cruz attacking Trump, and you may well have the average Iowan going, come on, guys. And in that context, what Rubio's doing is a very calculated effort, which could easily make him the sort of leading candidate to take on Trump when you get beyond Iowa.
You said that Cruz's campaign, for the moment, rivals Mitt Romney's bid in 2012. What does that mean? Is that organization? Is that what you're hearing? Is that the campaign he's running? What is that?
Look, if you have, you know, with all due respect to Mitt, who I fought pretty hard to stop but couldn't stop, you know, if you have the money, which Cruz has raised, and you have a very professional, very solid organization, you'd have to say, in a normal year, you'd have to say that Cruz will slightly outperform the last Iowa poll because he just has a lot better organization turning people out. What you don't know in this particular year is whether the sheer phenomena of Trump and the degree to which the size of his crowds, the level of enthusiasm. Clifton and I have a personal friend who waited for 2 hours at the University of Northern Iowa in the cold just to see him. I mean, those folks are going to go caucus. So you don't know whether the energy of Trump offsets the organization of Cruz, but you've got to give Ted Cruz a lot of credit. He put together the most professional organization on the Republican side in Iowa, and it's certainly a substantial advantage going into these last 48 hours.
Yeah. You know, on the Republican side, I don't know if you, I mean, we had a front page story on our website earlier today, Trump versus Cruz, and I mean, maybe that's the way it goes, or maybe there's another lane out there. But you had recently said that Trump has mastered the Kardashian model of social media. And,
sure.
And because he has had that effect, he's left everybody else behind. In 2016, is that an effective way to run a campaign, or is that the way you need to do it right now?
Well, no, look, I think he's a phenomenon. I think normal candidates who went out and tried to do that would get no attention. I mean, you have to be a guy who wrote his first best-selling book in the 80s, who was on the cover of Time magazine in '89, I think did his first interview with Oprah in the 80s, had a #1 TV show in The Apprentice, you know, owned Miss Universe. I mean, think about all the things that Trump was before he announced. So Trump has this, and he has an easy name. Trump is a name you can sort of capture pretty easily. So he has figured out that he can tweet. My theory of Trump's day is he gets up in the morning, he tweets for a little while, then he calls in to Fox and Friends, then he thinks about doing some stuff on Facebook, then he figures he'll do a press event, and then he may go do a show in the evening. And all of it's out of his hip pocket. All of it is intuitive. It's the opposite of corporate structured plan behavior.
I think the word intuitive is very applicable here because you don't just learn that. You either see it and do it or you don't.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Appreciate your time today. We'll see how right you are tomorrow night.
All
Newt
right.
Gingrich in Washington.
Take care.
Thank you again.